Revealed, Billionaire's heartwarming final wish to meet his maid transformed 10 lives forever. The summer sun draped itself over the quaint suburban town like a warm blanket. The aroma of freshly baked pies floated through the air, teasing the senses of Sarah, a devoted maid in her late 30s. As she wiped the sweat from her brow, her heart swelled with love for her 2 children. One was a dreamer, brimming with hopes of becoming a doctor, while the other a teenager battled through the fog of her identity. Sarah worked multiple jobs, often clocking late nights just to keep them afloat, but on one fateful afternoon, her world cracked when she heard the news. Thomas Sinclair, the reclusive billionaire she had worked for years, was in hospice care with just days left to live. As Sarah stood in her small, cluttered kitchen, the weight of unfulfilled dreams pressed down on her chest. She thought of how hard she had worked and how much her children had sacrificed for her struggles. The opulence of Thomas's mansion contrasted sharply with her own cramped life, and the realization hit her like a tidal wave. For once, she felt the urge to speak her truth, to share her journey, her hardships, her sacrifices, and her fierce love. Driven by her traditional values, she gathered her courage and decided to visit Thomas. As she stepped through the towering oak doors of his estate, she was overcome by the isolation of his luxurious world. Inside, he sat surrounded by wealth yet devoid of joy. Their conversations ebbed between laughter and tears, revealing a profound emptiness that came with riches. Thomas confided in Sarah about his last wish, to meet the families of his employees, to form genuine connections that had eluded him for so long. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With fiery determination, Sarah began inviting other employees and their families to share their stories with Thomas. Families who had been strangers slowly transformed into a community, rekindling bonds under a canopy of renewed hope. The mansion buzzed with energy as they laughed, cried, and connected, forging a tapestry of resilience that defined the very essence of the American spirit. But as this newfound unity blossomed, whispers of a scandal involving Thomas's business dealings threatened to unravel the delicate fabric they had woven together. Sarah stood at a crossroads, rallying her neighbors to defend Thomas. Emotions ran high as prejudice and fear surfaced, challenging the connections they had built. Just as the confrontation peaked, an unexpected piece of information emerged, leaving her questioning if they could truly unite to protect the purity of their newfound bond. Would her fight for justice help bridge the gap between the wealthy and working class, or would fear and prejudice shatter the dreams of an entire community? In the air hung a bittersweet tension, and Sarah felt the relentless tug of hope fighting against doubt. What lay ahead felt impossible, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that together, they might just find a way to protect their fragile dream. The following days were a whirlwind. Sarah awakened each morning with a sense of purpose, yet a deep pit of anxiety gnawed at her. She felt a responsibility to maintain the solidarity they had formed. The twist of fate had brought them together, but the threat of scandal loomed like an ominous shadow. The whispers of betrayal were palpable, and Sarah knew the fragile bonds could snap at any moment, leaving her community broken. She organized meetings in the spacious garden of the Sinclair mansion, where sunflowers swayed gently in the breeze, the perfect backdrop for unity. Each gathering started simply, with stories shared over the clinking of glasses and the comforting aroma of homemade food. Laughter broke the tension, wrapping around them like an invisible shield. Yet, as they enjoyed the moment, skepticism hovered, ready to strike. One evening, Sarah glanced at Thomas from across the garden. His face, gaunt and pale, reflected the harsh reality of his condition. She felt a rush of compassion. Here was a man who had everything yet little. Everyone craved connection, not just wealth. As she walked over to him, her heart raced. Would he feel her determination? "Thomas," she said softly, bending down so her face was level with his. "They trust you. They've opened their hearts to you." We can fight this together. He sighed, an exhale that seemed to carry years of regret. But will they still trust me when they learn the truth? His doubt struck a chord within her. What truth? She pressed, a tinge of urgency in her voice. The rumors they hold a grain of truth. There is something in my past, something I thought was buried. His eyes clouded with fear. If it comes out, it could destroy everything. Sarah's mind spiraled. What could be so damaging it would break the community they were building? We can solve this together. You need to trust me in them. We must stand united. With a heavy heart, she turned from him, determined to protect not just their newfound friendships but also his fragile spirit. As she rejoined the others, she sensed unease in the air. The tight-knit community had begun to murmur, and suspicious glances darted among them. The next day, news of Thomas's past emerged like a wildfire. A former business partner had come forward, sharing tales of shady dealings and deceit. It didn't take long for speculation to consume the gathering they had painstakingly built. The air crackled with disbelief. Whispers turned to shouts, and one by one, the faces that once lit up with hope now fell into uncertainty. Why would we trust him? Someone shouted, breaking the fragile unity Sarah had worked to create. Her heart sank as the crowd buzzed, panic clawing at her resolve. The very bonds they'd formed seemed ready to snap. She needed to act fast. But where could she find the strength to hold them all together against such raw emotion? Everyone, please. Sarah cried out, her voice trembling but determined. We stand for something greater than fear. We're better together. But doubt lingered, and she could see it in their faces. Could they rise above the chaos, or would the truth tear them apart? As Sarah searched for a glimmer of hope amidst the turmoil, she understood that she needed to uncover whatever secrets Thomas held, to confront the truth head-on. If not for him, then for her children and the community that had begun to fill her heart with joy. What was the truth Thomas feared? Could Sarah sustain their unity against the rising tide of doubt? As she stood on the precipice of everything she believed, she felt the ground shift beneath her feet, and a frail whisper of hope remained. But for how long? The following morning, the sunlight filtered through the clouds, but it felt more like a dim glow than the warm embrace she longed for. Sarah stood in her kitchen, brewing coffee, her mind still reeling from the chaos of the night before. She could almost hear the echoes of her neighbors' shouts, laced with doubt and suspicion. For one brief moment, the sweetness of hope felt bitter on her tongue. She needed a plan, an act of defiance against the growing fear that spread among them. What if she could prove Thomas was more than just a man with a troubled past? What if they could turn this moment into an opportunity to show the strength of community? After downing her coffee, she grabbed her notepad and penned down her ideas. A community meeting, yes, but not just any gathering. It would be a chance for everyone to share their stories. Everyone had a past, some were just better hidden than others. If Thomas could stand before them and be honest, perhaps others would follow suit. As she readied herself for the day, Sarah felt the familiar pull of anxiety in her stomach, twisting and knotting. She made her way to the garden, where she planned to spearhead her effort to bring everyone back together. The sunflowers seemed to nod in agreement as she stepped outside, a gentle reminder of resilience. By evening, the garden buzzed with the sounds of apprehensive chatter. Neighbors exchanged glances, their faces etched with skepticism. Sarah took a deep breath, grounding herself, and stepped forward. Friends, she began, her heart racing. Tonight, let us open up. We're all on different paths, but together we can create something beautiful from our stories. The group shifted uneasily, but eyes began to soften. Let us start with Thomas, she continued, her voice steady now. Come join me. The crowd parted for him, revealing his hesitant figure. He looked smaller, burdened by shame and fear. As he moved to her side, she felt the faint tremor in his hands. Your turn, Thomas, she coaxed gently. Tell them your truth. He hesitated, searching the crowd with wide eyes, searching for any signs of acceptance. I made mistakes, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. I got caught in a web of greed and ambition. I was blinded by power. But I've tried to change. I want to earn your trust back. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some shifted their weight, others crossed their arms defensively. Sarah's heart sank. Would her plan fall apart before it even began? Then, slowly, a voice broke through the silence. I nearly lost everything myself, an older woman admitted, her hands trembling. I lied to everyone about my business, it's been tough. One by one, stories began to unfold. Tales of hardship, regret, and redemption. As they shared, laughter intertwined with tears, weaving a new tapestry of connection. Sarah longed to share her own truth, but she held back, knowing that this was Thomas's moment. As the air thickened with emotion, Sarah could see walls crumbling around them. But then, someone shouted from the back, "You can't trust a man like him." The fragile unity threatened to splinter. Sarah felt the heat of anger rise, determined not to let dissent win. Wasn't he at the point of all this? She implored. We've all made mistakes. We all deserve a second chance. Are we going to let fear tear us apart? The tension hung thick, and just when she thought despair would win, a small boy stepped forward. His innocence shined brightly amidst the shadows. But we can be friends. Everyone makes mistakes, he said, his voice ringing with genuine hope. Laughter erupted, just as quickly met by a hush. Thomas looked down, surprise mingling with gratitude for the unexpected support. Sarah scanned the crowd, searching for acknowledgement. Could they rally together? Could a child's voice unite them? As light washed over the garden, she noticed several neighbors nodding hesitantly. Somewhere in the depths of their hearts, perhaps, change was starting to take root. But just as she believed hope was winning, a figure appeared at the edge of the garden, watching. Silently. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as their eyes met a person emerging from Thomas's past. What had they come to say? An unsettling knot of tension built in her chest as she braced for the next wave of turmoil. Would this revelation shift the tide, or would it take them back to square one? The figure at the edge of the garden moved closer, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was a woman, fierce and determined, with an expression that seemed to challenge everyone in the gathering. Her presence radiated authority, and the whispers of the crowd grew into an indistinct murmur. Who are you? Sarah called out, trying to maintain control of the situation. The woman paused, her gaze zeroing in on Thomas. I'm Vanessa, she said firmly. And I know who he really is. The air thickened with tension. Thomas's face turned pale, and Sarah felt a tremor of anxiety ripple through the crowd. She stepped forward, hand held up as if to ward off the incoming storm. If you have something to say, please share it here, she said, her voice steady but her heart racing. Vanessa squared her shoulders, eyes narrowing as she focused on the group. Thomas lied to you all. He is not just a man who made mistakes. He is a fraud, a swindler who destroyed lives. No. Thomas shouted, his voice cracking. I've changed. I'm trying to make amends for what I did. Change? Vanessa scoffed, taking a step closer. You think you can just pretend to be someone else? You broke things that can't be fixed. Gasps erupted from the crowd, and Sarah's heart pounded in her ears. She knew the community was fragile, the earlier warmth quickly turning into cold distrust. She could see Thomas clenching his fists, the weight of his past crashing down on him like a wave. Why are you here, Vanessa? Sarah asked, trying to defuse the situation. What do you want? I want the truth. Vanessa replied. He needs to acknowledge what he did. People like him don't just flip a switch and become good. The small boy from earlier stepped up again, eyes wide with innocence. Everyone can try to be better. Isn't that what we're doing? His voice held a clarity that seemed to pierce through the chaos. Sarah felt a rush of hope ignite within her. Yes. We're here to support each other. We all have parts of our stories we wish we could erase, she said, turning back to the crowd, striving to evoke unity. This isn't about Thomas alone. It's about all of us facing our own fears and flaws together. But as she spoke, Vanessa's laughter cut through the air, sharp and bitter. You really think he deserves your sympathy? He's deceived you all into believing he's worth saving. Tension hovered in the air like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. Sarah took a step closer to Thomas, wanting to shield him from the storm. His eyes met hers, filled with desperation and uncertainty. Truth or not, you're not the only one struggling, she said, her voice rising above the din. Together, we can find a way forward, if you let us. There was a moment of silence, a pause in the chaos, as Thomas inhaled deeply. He turned to face Vanessa, determination solidifying in his posture. I'll show you I'm not the man I was. I won't hide anymore. But just as the words left his mouth, the surrounding crowd erupted into fervent discussion, confusion and anger bubbling up again, strained voices overlapping. Sarah felt the ground beneath them shifting as divisions emerged once more. As she cast her eyes around the circle, she spotted the small boy, still looking hopeful but now uncertain. And there, behind him, an unexpected figure appeared, another ghost from Thomas's past. Who were they, and what would they reveal? An anxious knot formed in Sarah's stomach. The stakes couldn't be higher. Would they unite in their willingness to embrace the human experience, or would truths unravel them completely? The figure stepped into the light, and Sarah's heart sank as recognition hit her like a punch. It was Claire, Thomas's former partner, the one whose dreams had crumbled along with him. Claire's eyes, filled with a mixture of sorrow and anger, scanned the crowd as if gauging which side to take. Claire, Thomas breathed, a mix of dread and hope in his voice. What are you doing here? She didn't answer immediately, choosing instead to look at the crowd, at the faces that had once embraced Thomas. You all deserve to know the truth, she finally said, her voice steady but laced with pain. Thomas built his empire on lies. Do you think he deserves your loyalty when he turned his back on people like me? Gasps rippled through the gathering, and Sarah felt the air thicken with accusations. She glanced at Thomas, who looked shattered. Claire, it was a different time, he pleaded, taking a tentative step forward. I didn't know how to cope. I'm better now. I want to be better. But who are you trying to fool, Thomas? Claire's words sliced through the air. You think just saying I'm better now will erase everything? You abandoned me, and I had to rebuild my life from scratch. An awkward silence followed. It was as if the crowd held its breath, waiting for someone to break the tension, but all that hung in the air was Claire's pain. Thomas opened his mouth, but no words came out. Sarah interjected, Look, we all have our pasts. But what's important is how we move forward. Thomas is not the only one with a dark history. We all struggle. But Claire shook her head, a bitter smile on her lips. Struggling is one thing. Destroying others' lives for personal gain is another. You don't realize what you're defending. The small boy stepped up again, looking bewildered. But isn't this about change? Aren't we supposed to support each other? His innocence pulled at something deep within the crowd, but the shadows of doubt clung fiercely. Change? Claire scoffed, her eyes flashing. You think it's that easy? It's not just a choice, especially for those you've hurt along the way. A murmur of agreement sparked from a few members of the crowd. Sarah's heart sank further. The foundation of trust was cracking, the splintering could be seen, a reflection of Thomas's ticker tape memories blaring in everyone's minds. Claire, I'm so sorry for everything, Thomas said, the rawness of his voice echoing through the tension. I can't take back the past, and I know I won't win you over in this moment. Just let me show you through my actions that I've changed. As Thomas stepped down, Sarah found herself stepping back. This wasn't just about what he could say or do anymore. It was turning into a trial by fire, and somewhere in the crowd, anger simmered alongside empathy. Who would it consume next? Suddenly, a woman from the back yelled, "What if he's just manipulating us again?" Questions swirled, accusations heated the air. "Do we trust him again?" Came another voice. The scene shifted, and the same collective question echoed in Sarah's heart. Had their all-too-human desire to forgive been misplaced? Or was there still hope for redemption? It was a volatile crossroads. With emotions roiling, Sarah sunk deeper into uncertainty. Then she turned to look at Thomas. He was pale, but determination sparked from within. But just as she felt a flicker of hope, another unexpected figure emerged, someone who claimed to have been helped by Thomas's earlier misdeeds. What would this new presence reveal? Would they bring salvation or damnation? The crowd tightened around Thomas, their bodies a mix of fear and doubt. Claire's words hung heavy in the air, a tangled web of betrayal and longing. But just when Sarah thought the moment couldn't grow more intense, another voice broke through. "Thomas!" A tall figure called out, striding forward with undeniable purpose. It was Daniel, a former client of Thomas's who owned a struggling small business that had thrived under their partnership years ago. The crowd parted, revealing Daniel's broad shoulders and determined expression. "Daniel," Thomas breathed, surprise flickering across his face. "I'm not here to defend you, but to share my story," Daniel said, his voice steady, cutting through the murmur of the gathering. "When I met Thomas, my business was failing. I was drowning in debt, and he took a chance on me. He didn't just give me a loan, he believed in my dream when no one else did." Thomas's face softened, the faintest hint of relief battling with dread. Sarah held her breath, caught in a whirlwind of hope that clashed against despair. "But it came at a cost," Daniel continued, eyes narrowing slightly. "I didn't know the risk behind his decisions. I lost my savings, my livelihood, and I blamed him for it. But it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I realized I needed to take responsibility for my own failure too. Thomas might be started this entire thing, but I had a choice in how to handle it." His words hung suspended, the crowd shifting. Some listened intently, while others tensed, grappling with their own pain. "I found a way to rebuild," Daniel went on, his tone building conviction. "Not because of him, but in spite of what had happened. I learned that the hardest lessons often lead us down paths we never expected. I want to say it's easy to point fingers and lay blame, but forgiveness? That takes courage. Change isn't a simple act, it's a relentless journey." The room buzzed with nervous energy. Sarah felt a flicker of insight. Could this be the beginning of a dialogue everyone needed? Claire's expression shifted, betraying a crack in her tough facade. "So, we just let him off the hook. What he did still happened. It doesn't just disappear because someone else found their way." Daniel turned to her, a softness emerging from his steely gaze. "I'm not saying it goes away. But your struggle and mine, they don't define us. If we all learn from it, hold each other accountable, can't that be something worthwhile?" As murmurs spread, Sarah felt hope re-emerging amidst the bitterness. Daniel's testimony was a wildfire in the dark, igniting new possibilities. But Claire looked unconvinced. Her sorrow still burned bright as she murmured, "It feels like a poor excuse for what was lost." "Perhaps," Daniel replied, his voice patient. "But what if we focus instead on what can be found?" Thomas stepped forward, emboldened by Daniel's presence. "I can't change what I've done. But I swear, every chance I get, I'll work to earn back that trust. Not just with words but with actions. Show me the way." The tension in the crowd thickened again. Some stepped closer in solidarity, while others recoiled, uncertainty still clinging to the air. Suddenly, in the back, another voice rose up. "What if he is lying again? How can we possibly know?" Thomas's heart raced. He could feel the stakes rising, the balance shifting. They stood on the edge where hope and despair met, eyes on him, waiting for the final turn. For Sarah, watching everything unfold felt like standing on a cliff, wavering between trusting and doubting, waiting for the next wave of truth. Then she thought of Claire and Daniel, two people shaped by the same man yet standing on opposite sides. Will we ever move past this? Sarah wondered, feeling the weight of the question settle in her stomach. As the crowd buzzed with whispered debates, Thomas's determination flickered through the crowd like a beacon. But would it be enough? The moment hung precariously, awaiting the twist of fate that would come next. Thomas felt the pressure of the moment crashing down around him. The crowd's eyes were like lasers, each filled with a mixture of skepticism, hope, and pain. He could sense that the fragile thread of trust was unraveling. No one was going to forget the hurt so easily. Maybe we won't all move past this, Thomas said, the weight of the reality falling heavily on his chest. But I won't stop trying. Not just for me, but for all of us. As he spoke, Claire's face softened slightly, her defenses wavering under the force of his sincerity. Yet she shook her head, unconvinced. How can we be sure? You've said it before, you've made promises. And we've been let down. What's different now? Daniel stepped back, allowing Thomas to take center stage. The challenge before him was steep, his voice a tremor rather than a shout. I could go on about accountability and lessons learned. But all I can offer today is the truth of who I am, right now. Silence enveloped the crowd, as if waiting for a storm to break. Then, a woman spoke up from the outer edges, her voice trembling. Maybe it's not just about Thomas. Maybe it's about us too. The crowd quieted, turning to her, curious. She wiped a tear from her cheek. We're hurt, yes. But if we stand here forever, pointing fingers, will we only create bigger divides? We have to decide as a community what we want moving forward. The honesty in her words sparked a ripple of understanding. People looked at each other, eyes narrowing in contemplation. Thomas felt a slight sigh of relief wash over him. This was the conversation that needed to happen. What if we shared our experiences? Another voice called out, his tone laced with urgency. Instead of battling over blame, what if we took the time to listen to one another? Thomas or not, we're all suffering here. Could it really help? Claire finally asked, her walls coming down, curiosity igniting in her eyes. Absolutely, Daniel interjected, nodding. Sometimes healing starts with just being heard. People murmured to one another, the energy shifting from confrontation to contemplation. The thought of openly laying their pain on the table felt both terrifying and liberating. Thomas felt a surge of encouragement. This could be the start of something, even if it was just the first step, but in that charged atmosphere, Thomas's heart sank. He knew it was one thing to talk about healing and moving forward, and another altogether to put those words into action. Despite Daniel's story and the shift in discussions, he wasn't yet certain how to prove he could be the change they needed. Suddenly, the crowd abruptly parted again, revealing a figure who had been lurking in the background, Sarah. With tears in her eyes and a fierce determination in her stance, she stepped forward. We need clarity. Not just for us, but for the one who has hurt us. What is it you truly want, Thomas? The crowd turned as one to Thomas, the air thick with expectation. He could feel their collective breath hold, eyes fixed on him as if he held the key to their future. Was that question too much for him? Would he crumble under their scrutiny or rise to the occasion? With so much uncertainty swirling around, Thomas knew he had to answer with truth, but he found himself hesitating, searching for the right words that could resonate with them all. As he drew in a deep, calming breath, an unexpected thought struck him, a raw realization of what was truly at stake. Could he bare his soul enough to make them believe? Before he could respond, someone from the back shouted, "We want the truth, Thomas. The real truth." The urgency in that cry ignited a spark in him, pushing Thomas to engage with the very heart of what had brought them all here. But could he deliver the truth they were so desperate for, without shattering everything further? And as those confrontational eyes fixed on him, he knew this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about their shared future. Would he find his way through the darkness? The weight of the moment pressed even harder on Thomas's chest. Silence hung in the air, thick and palpable. He could feel every gaze, a mix of doubt, hope, and yearning, pushing him to be vulnerable in ways he never imagined. He took a small step forward, heart pounding loud enough for him to hear over the murmur of the crowd. He began, forcing the words out as if they were stuck in his throat. I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for what happened, but for the way I let you down. He paused, searching the faces around him. I remember the laughter, the support, the community we built together. I remember what it felt like to belong. As he spoke, Claire's expression shifted, a flicker of empathy breaking through her skepticism. But I also know that I've broken that bond, he continued, his voice steadier now. It's going to take more than words to heal these wounds. I want to help us find a way forward. I need to earn your trust again. But I can't do this alone. The crowd shifted, a murmur of agreement rippling through. The woman who had spoken before nodded, her eyes glistening with determination. None of us want to be stuck in this pain. We deserve hope. Hope. It was a fragile thing but a necessary one. Thomas felt a stirring within him. What if, together, we shared our stories? He asked, suddenly energized by the idea. We've all been hurt in different ways. What if that becomes our first step towards understanding and healing? Are you sure you can handle that? Claire challenged, her voice steady but not dismissive. Can you truly listen without getting defensive? Because that's what it will take. You need to hear us out, fully, and accept our truth. I'm ready for that, he said, conviction slicing through his hesitation. I know it won't be easy, and it might hurt. But it's what we need. I can't promise I won't stumble again, but I can promise to listen, to really listen. Thomas could see the shifting emotions in the crowd. Some were skeptical, arms crossed tightly, faces still etched with anger. But others leaned in, drawn by the potential of his words. The collective heart of the community began to beat a little stronger, a little braver. Daniel stepped forward. How about we set up a meeting? A safe space where we can share without judgment. Just us, our experiences. It could be cathartic. We can gather here, and let each voice be heard. The atmosphere seemed to buzz with a new energy. Thomas felt the weight begin to lift, albeit slowly. Yes, he agreed. Let us do that. Together. The crowd started to respond, voices rising, some excited, some wary but intrigued. Sarah glanced back at the community, encouraging them to embrace the dialogue. We've been quiet for too long, letting pain fester. It's time to speak up. As discussions began buzzing and plans took shape, Thomas watched carefully. As different stories began to flow in hushed tones, he sat in a swirl of emotions: relief, fear, and something akin to gratitude. But beneath the surface, another realization tugged at him. As transformative as this moment felt, they were still at the edge of a precipice. What if not everyone wanted to heal? What if some were too deep in their pain to see beyond it? He glanced around, seeing familiar faces turning to strangers, uncertainty still etched in their eyes. Will you all really be ready to speak your truths? He thought, anxiety creeping back in. The future painted before him felt promising, yet precarious. The crowd began to settle, drawing nearer as they prepared to delve deeper. And as Thomas took a step back, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were only just beginning to confront the shadows of their past. What darkness still lingered, waiting to emerge? As the crowd grew quiet, the ambience shifted. Conversations twirled in the air like a soft breeze, laced with anticipation and vulnerability. Thomas took a deep breath and moved to stand in the center, the weight of their gazes pressing down on him. It was overwhelming, yet he felt the spark of hope ignite inside him. We have to start somewhere, he said, glancing at Claire. Her brow was tightly knit, still unsure but willing to engage. Let us make this a circle. One by one, we can share what this community means to us, what we've lost, and what we still dream of. The only condition is that we listen." Those words hung in the air, almost trembling with the possibilities. A ripple of apprehension washed over the gathering. Thomas could see hesitant nods and furrowed brows. Some people were so deep in their pain that the idea of sharing felt insurmountable. Yet, there were also glimmers of hope sparking in their eyes. Claire was the first to speak up. "I'll begin," she said, her voice strangely steady despite the tumult of emotions behind it. She stepped forward, her shoulders squared, yet the tremble in her chin betrayed her nerves. "I joined this community looking for a sense of belonging, just like Thomas said. But when everything fell apart, I felt lost, like I didn't belong anywhere." Thomas could see the energy shift. Others leaned in closer, taking her words to heart. They were beginning to take the leap with her, crossing the bridge of pain into vulnerability. Next, a man named Dave rose from his seat. "I lost my job shortly after the fallout," he admitted, voice low but steady, "and I didn't just lose income. I lost my sense of purpose. I thought the community would support me," but he paused, frustration evident. "Instead, I felt abandoned." There were murmurs of empathy, cautious agreement rippling through the crowd. Each voice dared to share more than just hurt, they were expressing the raw truth of their experiences. One after another, stories flowed. Unfiltered and open, they spilled from heart to heart, weaving an invisible thread of shared sorrow and tentative hope. As Thomas listened, something extraordinary unfolded. The pain of each story held power. They became interconnected wooden pieces, like a jigsaw puzzle, revealing a bigger picture of a community fractured but yearning to heal. Each voice amplified the last, echoing the unspoken sentiments that lingered beneath the surface. When it was Sarah's turn, her eyes shone with determination. "I once thought that keeping quiet would make things easier. But it didn't. I carried the weight of everyone's pain while trying to keep a smile on my face. Sharing is scary, but it's necessary. We're stronger together." Her voice wavered, emotion swelling as she spoke, "and we need to know each other's stories." Thomas felt his heart race. This was the moment he had been yearning for, yet here lay the stark reality: fragility mingled with strength. He took a step toward the circle, feeling drawn in by their bravery. "Thank you for having the courage to share," he responded, his voice thick with emotion. "This is just the beginning. Each of you holds a piece of our collective heart. We can rebuild it, brick by brick, through the stories we tell." As the meeting progressed, it became clear that while many were willing to speak, others remained silent and shackled by their pain. Thomas caught a glimpse of Claire, struggling as she glanced between voices that sparked connections and the shadows looming within her. The moment felt palpable, like they were on the brink of something far deeper than simple healing. Thomas sensed that vulnerability wasn't just about sharing pain, it was about making space for joy, the joy of resilience, of connection. But would everyone accept that? Would the darkness that still lingered be too heavy to bear? Just as he thought the circle was shifting toward brighter days, he felt a weight settle in his chest, a nagging question that didn't leave him. What if someone in the circle wasn't really ready to let the light in? What if they were here simply to unleash their darkness? A stirring breeze swept through, carrying with it the intertwined emotions of the night: hope, fear, churning uncertainty, and flickers of a brighter tomorrow. What if the next voice that spoke held a truth that could either shatter them or bring them closer together? As the evening deepened, the sun dipped low, casting a golden glow that draped the garden in warmth. The air buzzed with vulnerability, each shared story hung like a delicate thread, weaving together a tapestry of pain and hope. Thomas felt the heaviness in his chest lift slightly, the tale sparking a transformation within the hesitant crowd. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged: Vanessa, the woman who had challenged them before, her earlier bravado now tempered with curiosity. "Can I share?" she asked, voice breaking the soft stillness. The crowd turned, giving her the space that had once felt so foreign to them all. "Go ahead," Sarah encouraged, her heart racing. "I was angry," Vanessa began, her voice wavering, "really angry. I lost my job due to decisions made by people like Thomas. When I heard he was trying to change, I didn't want to believe it. I just saw the man who shattered my life, my dreams. She paused, emotions twisting in her throat. But standing here, I realize it's not just about him. I felt lost in my own sea of anger, too. I failed to see the bigger picture. Nods rippled through the crowd, understanding dawning in their eyes. Slowly, she continued, I've held on to my pain like a shield, thinking I was protecting myself. But maybe it's held me back from healing, from moving forward. Vanessa caught Thomas's gaze, raw and reflective. Am I also part of the problem? A murmur of support enveloped her, and Sarah felt a flicker of gratitude. We're all struggling, Sarah called out, voice stronger now. But sharing that struggle? That gives us a chance. As the circle continued, voices rose and fell, flowing in an organic rhythm. Claire finally spoke, her words spilling out yet vibrating with honesty. The truth isn't only painful, it's also freeing. I thought hiding behind my hurt was safer, but it only kept me shackled. Maybe if we keep sharing, we not only understand Thomas better, but we see ourselves in each other. Thomas felt an unfamiliar warmth wash over him. As different experiences merged in the gathering dusk, he marveled at the collective acumen building within their small community. You're right, he said, feeling the sincerity pulse through his veins. I can't change my past, but being here, standing with you all. He swallowed hard, memories flooding back. That's where my journey begins. Just then, a quiet voice piped up from the back. It was the small boy who had spoken before. What if we have a picnic next week? All together? We can share more stories, good ones too. It could help us feel like a family. Laughter erupted, a sweet balm that dispelled some of the lingering tension. The sun dipped lower, the sky awash in soft oranges and pinks. For the first time in a long while, Thomas felt a sense of belonging blossom in the most peculiar way. As they continued to talk, Thomas felt a sudden rush of determination. Yes. Let us make this a tradition. A picnic, where we share laughter, stories, life, the hardships and joys. It's a step, a beacon of who we can become. Together. The crowd cheered, the voices full of excitement, a symphony of hope resounding through the garden. Sarah felt tears of joy prick at her eyes. They were forging a path through the darkness. They were learning to trust not just Thomas, but themselves as well. As the gathering continued, Thomas realized they had moved beyond just facing their fears. They were ready to weave something beautiful. Each person was a thread. Together, they created a robust fabric of community, one that no storm could easily tear apart. His heart swelled with hope. We are stronger than our pasts, he declared, voice reverberating with conviction. And I promise to become the man you deserve. Together, we can become a community that uplifts rather than tears down. With that declaration, the sun finally dipped below the horizon, leaving a gentle dusk settling over the garden, wrapping it in a blanket of camaraderie. Faces lit with smiles, they embraced their shared humanity, buoyed by the notion that out of chaos, transformation burgeoned. When they left that night, the warmth of unity lingered, a promise carved in hearts, a commitment to build anew. The journey would be long, but they had begun to step into the light, one shared story at a time. Now, let us not dwell on this beautiful moment without acting. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss more inspiring stories like this. Leave a like immediately to feed the algorithm and keep the positivity flowing. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this ending, we want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see such incredible transformations. Together, let us make a difference.